Anecdote from the channeler: sometimes I'm anxious about something, even though it's likely that in 5 years' time I won't even remember whether I failed or succeeded at that thing. So in other words, sometimes I'm anxious about something that in the long run will not really matter. In such a case, if I ask a Pleiadian friend if I'll succeed, she will often say, "My dear, you are safe whether you succeed or not." Furthermore, I found a voice actress for Tunia, namely Kim Secord. So the female galactics will no longer be voiced by a robot voice. Thanks for stepping up, Kim. On to Tunia's message.
My dearest brothers and sisters, this is Tunia speaking. I love you so very much. The situation on Earth is a bit hard for me to wrap my head around and pretty horrifying, but to me, what seems to be going on is the following. Pretty much everyone has several unmet needs. This can be the physical need of having enough to eat, or the need of being free from physical or psychological pain, or it can be the need to feel safe and financially secure, or the need to feel connected and heard and seen and understood, or the need of being surrounded by a like-minded and safe community. Or it can be the need to feel that your lives matter and your pain is worth it, or the need to feel that you are a good person and that you are making a difference and contributing enough, etc. Even people who think they don't have unmet needs probably have the unmet need of being fully seen and understood on a very deep level. Or they have the unmet need of having a subconscious free of fear and of old pain. Or they have the unmet need of having high conscious, emotionally safe, spiritually advanced people around them. Or they have the unmet need of having an emotionally safe, deeply satisfying relationship with an amazing partner. As we sometimes remark to the channeler, if you can't teleport yet, you're not fully empty yet. And while that's more of a quip than a reliable criterion of judging someone's level of consciousness, there is some truth to it. A person who is actually clear and empty and has their needs met would radiate love and have several so-called supernatural abilities. Such a person would automatically appear to be a spiritual master in the eyes of the average person, even if that person hadn't consciously practiced spirituality. So pretty much everyone has unmet needs, and while people can usually cope with one or two unmet needs, most people have had several deep unmet needs for a long time. To deal with unmet needs, people may start coping. This can be trying to censor everyone with a different viewpoint, or it can be drugs or alcohol or food, or it can just be distractions such as spending very large amounts of time behind a screen, or it can be a childless woman calling herself a cat mom. People who have unmet needs can engage in short-termism. You even see this in corporate culture at the moment, where investors demand short-term profits rather than long-term profits, and companies prioritize short-term profits over long-term health. Or to meet their needs, people can have the desire to make other people suffer as they have suffered. While that is destructive, and while I don't endorse this, there can be an element there of a connection-starved person trying to make other people understand them and empathize with them. Or to meet their needs, people can let their ego or their spiritual ego take over, because it's quite good at superficially meeting some needs in the short term. Or to meet their needs, people can dive into self-healing, self-help, or spirituality. And of course, this is a productive response. If you are receiving this message, it is quite likely that at some point you made the productive choice to go into self-help or spirituality to meet some unmet need of yours, and I would like to congratulate you on your courageous decision. After all, most people deal with their unmet needs in a less productive way. So great job. Really, I mean it. You have all my respect. Or to meet their needs, some people may start being selfish and manipulative. It's not inherent to people to be selfish or manipulative, but if people feel they can't meet their needs otherwise, they may become selfish and manipulative and engage in underhanded tactics to meet their needs, which is part of why everyone seems to think that there's suddenly narcissists everywhere. Part of that is people trying to meet their self-esteem and their feel-loved needs in manipulative ways. Or to meet their psychological needs, people tell themselves a story that probably isn't fully true, but that is psychologically pleasing to them. In this story, they're usually either better or harder working or more virtuous than other people, or they're the social justice hero, or they're the oppressed victim who did nothing wrong and who isn't to blame for their current not-so-great life. There is actually a whole lot of this going on because people are in so much pain. The stereotypical right-wing flavor of this is illustrated by the following Trump quote, "My whole life really has been a no, and I fought through it. It has not been easy for me. It has not been easy for me. And you know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. So here you see someone fulfilling their own psychological needs by telling a story that makes them a hero. They had it so tough, but they overcame it because they're so virtuous or hardworking or something like that. Even though most people don't have the luxury of getting a loan of $1 million. Plus, Trump didn't just get a $1 million loan. He also inherited lots of money. Similarly, there's also the stereotypical example of the parent who says that his or her generation had it so tough and that they worked so hard and the younger generation is lazy. In reality, things are very difficult for the younger generation. Another example is someone who says or implies that they succeeded through hard work and smart choices, and therefore everyone who fails is either lazy or made stupid choices. The attitude here is sometimes, I am reasonably comfortable. If you are not reasonably comfortable, screw you, I got mine. Furthermore, my reasonable level of success proves that I am a good, hard-working person, and your lack of success proves that you are lazy or made bad choices, and in both cases, you deserve to suffer. This is psychologically pleasing because the person who says it feels like a virtuous person, and also it stops them from feeling bad that their sisters and brothers are suffering. Now, personal responsibility is absolutely very important. At the same time, often such an I got mine, screw you person overlooks advantages that the person may have had over other people. For example, they may simply have been born with a higher IQ than average, which actually is a massive advantage. Now, a smart but not genius type of person might not think of themselves as having the advantage of being born with an above average IQ. However, such a person does often think of the average person as being quite stupid, and part of that is that they were born with a higher IQ than the average person. Even if you take a person who is average in all respects, well, this person still had a more advantageous birth and youth than half of all people. That's what being average means. Even if an average person didn't have any advantages, they may still not have had to deal with disadvantages that other people may struggle with, such as health conditions, being born into an unstable or poor family, being abused, being born with a below-average IQ, prejudice, etc. So while personal responsibility matters, it's often too simple to say, I succeeded because I'm a good and hard-working person. If other people fail, they're just lazy or made bad choices. Yes, Some people are lazy and made bad choices, but not everyone is struggling with lazy or made bad choices. Some people on the right adopt this screw you, I got mine attitude anyway because it's psychologically pleasing to them. On the other hand, this attitude can make unsuccessful people feel unsafe and unseen, and thereby it increases the political divide and radicalizes the other side a bit. That's an unfortunate result. Or what happens when a person doesn't get their needs met and starts coping or trying to get their needs met in other ways. Often, that makes the people around them feel less safe and less seen. There are also left-wing versions of a person telling themselves a narrative so that they can meet their psychological needs. One such version is, I am a woman, or I am black. Therefore, I am oppressed by those evil men or white people. It is their fault that my life is tough. Now, yes, there are misogynists and racists out there. That is true, and it's not a bad thing to acknowledge reality. At the same time, some people on the left go overboard with this and create a narrative about how they're oppressed victims and how white people or men are evil. And while that may fulfill short-term psychological needs, this victim mentality isn't actually beneficial for the person in the longer term. Plus, it splits society in two. Also, this creates blindness to cases where there is prejudice or discrimination against men or white people. Pointing out that there are cases of prejudice or discrimination against men or white people disrupts the I, as a woman or black person, am oppressed narrative. Therefore, anti-male or anti-white prejudice and discrimination is swept under the rug by some left-wingers who claim to be against prejudice and discrimination. A somewhat related example is of a person claiming to have trauma or claiming that they were abused, when in reality they just had an unpleasant experience. Some people make stories up or heavily exaggerate things to get sympathy. Although, of course, there are also people out there who genuinely are traumatized and genuinely were abused, and if you have trauma or you were abused, then it's completely fine to say that you went through that. And I'm very sorry if you experienced that. Or a left-wing person might feel that their life is meaningless and has no purpose, and that they are one of billions of interchangeable, unremarkable people who won't be remembered after death. I'm not saying that a so-called average life is meaningless, but that is what some people feel deep down. Hence, some people on the left try to address this anxiety by, for example, inventing a new gender for themselves. Perhaps in their mind this makes them no longer yet another interchangeable, unremarkable person. Another left-wing version of fulfill my own needs by creating a narrative for myself is when a left-wing person stands up for a group that is perceived to be oppressed, such as women or black people or trans people. This can lead to situations where a white left-wing person claims to be fighting for black people, and in the process, this white left-wing person censors a black person who speaks out against a left-wing narrative. This illustrates that sometimes it's not actually about social justice. It's just about the left-wing person wanting to be a hero in order to meet their own psychological needs. It is interesting to note that people in the past were primarily concerned about material well-being, and back then the left was mostly interested in helping working-class people financially. And now a lot of people are more concerned with psychological pain, and now the left is helping them with that by giving people a ready-made narrative where they can either label themselves as the oppressed victim or as a hero who stands up against racism. This has led to the observation that the demand for racism has outstripped its supply. Hence, we see nowadays that even being opposed to illegal immigration is called racist, because left-wing people want there to be evil races that they can heroically defeat so that the left-winger meets their own psychological needs. At the same time, of course, anti-women's sexist and anti-black people races really do exist. The left isn't just all virtue signaling, or as I prefer to call it, please love me signaling. On the left, there is also genuine compassion and a genuine desire to improve society. Similarly, there genuinely is a hard-working and personal responsibility and freedom-minded ethos on the right. The right isn't all just people saying, screw you, I got mine. I'm the virtuous, hard-working person who deserves success. And if you're struggling, then I don't need to feel sorry for you because you deserve it. You're lazy or you made bad choices, although that is a part of the right. So as you can see, both the left and the right sometimes try to fulfill their own psychological needs by creating narratives that are pleasing to their ego, but often those narratives aren't fully true. Furthermore, those narratives often make other people feel unsafe and unseen, and people who fully identify with these narratives might seem narcissistic or self-absorbed or callous to people on the other political side. So what's the solution? Well, the solution is for people to get their needs met without having to engage in coping mechanisms and without having to create these kinds of self-justifying narratives. I know that's easier said than done. Still, you too can be part of the solution just by being kind to other people and by listening to them. That actually matters a great deal, far more than it might seem. So, is humanity inherently evil or selfish? No, it's just that almost everyone on Earth has several unmet needs. When Earth becomes a place where people get their needs met, Earth humans will also start behaving in dramatically better and more productive ways. Almost no one in our society behaves in a destructive way, and we're humans just as you are. This also means that yelling at people to stop virtue signaling or stop being selfish or whatever probably will not work. I love humans. I love the people of Earth. I feel a deep sense of compassion for the people of Earth, for you, because it must be horrible to live with so many unmet needs for so long. I can't even imagine what that would be like, and my heart goes out to you. But yes, at the same time, it is useful to understand that a whole lot of people are currently trying to cope with their unmet needs in unproductive ways, which also contributes to the huge political divide. The channeler has been disappointed and dismayed at just how many people are acting in selfish ways. Also, it can be pretty disturbing to realize that partly because of unmet needs, most people are acting in a sort of unconscious, robotic, survival mechanism way. For the average person, if TV tells them to believe or do a certain thing, that's what they do. They're almost like a robot that receives input and generates predictable output. And it's sad that many humans have been reduced to this. At the same time, humanity is waking up. And there are also beautiful, amazing, selfless people out there who are doing their own work and helping others. Waves of light are happening all the time, where one person is kind to someone else, and then that person is kinder to the people in their surroundings as a result, and so the wave of light just cascades outward. What starts as one kind of action can eventually touch most of humanity, which is heartwarming and inspiring and beautiful to see. Or one person heals some deep trauma they have, and in response the entire human collective consciousness is touched. People they've never even met, people on the other side of the globe may feel inspiration and relief and a nudge to go and do their own work. You are rising as one race. You are ascending. I know it's hard. I know it's painful, but Earth humans really are going in a positive direction. And while not guaranteed, it really is likely that this year or the next we will finally be able to physically meet you. And I can't wait. That will be a celebration and a sharing that will reverberate across the galaxy and across the ages. You have all my love and respect. You're doing amazing and you're in my thoughts every single day. Your star sister, Tunia.